Wonderful. And once we're done setting up our isMember toggle functionality, now let's work on a global state where we'll store things like is loading, our user is going to be there, our jobs, and all of that cool stuff. And the steps are going to be following. First, you want to create a context directory in the source. And in there, we'll set up actions.js, reducer.js, as well as app context. Now, you can probably already guess that we will use reducer basically to set up all our functionality. That's why we have actions and reducer. Now, I'll talk about why I picked that in the next video. For the time being, just create those files. And then in the app context, that's where we'll set up our state. Now, initially, it's just going to be this initial state with these 4 values, but make sure that you export that. And you'll see why I want to do that later in the reducer. Then we'll create our context using react.createContext. I'm going to name my one app context. Then you want to create a provider. So that's going to be my component. And then first I'm going to be looking for the children because I want to render my application. So this is what we're going to do in the index.js. Effectively, we'll wrap all our application with this provider. For the time being, I'm just going to use the use state here. But like I just mentioned, eventually we will use reducer. Then as far as the return from the provider, I want to go with app context. And remember, it returns 2 things. It returns the provider and the consumer components. And we're looking for the provider. And then in here, the prop that you're looking for is the value. So that's where we pass it in. And I'm just going to spread out the state values. So whatever I have over here, and then as we add here more functions, we'll add them one by one to this value prop. And notice here I'm setting up as an object. So all of these state properties will be stored there one by one. And then we'll also do the same thing with a function that we add. And after that, we also want to render the children. And I'll also right away set up the hook that I can access in each and every component. And by doing so, I don't have to use that use context in every component and then pass in the app context. Again, this is just about the access, and then eventually I want to export the app provider. And then, like I said, in the index.js, we'll get the app provider from the app context as a named import. We'll wrap our application in it. And then back in the register, I want to get the hook. So now I'm not talking about the provider. I'm talking about this hook, which will give me the access to my context. And then from it, I want to get is loading and show alert. And then I want to switch from the local show alert to a global one. Remember, currently in the initial state, we have show alert. So now I want to switch to the global one.